The following segment is sponsored by Hollis, Wright & Clay PC. Welcome back, friends. No one wants to start the year with the headache of a car crash, but this morning we are helping you get prepared because we know they happen. Attorney Michael Eldridge joins us now from Hollis, Wright & Clay. Michael, thanks so much for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
We were just talking, both of us saw some maybe near misses, some kind of wild driving this morning with the rain. It kind of throws people off, right?
Yeah, I didn't really have that far of a drive, and I was a little bit late because when you have this kind of weather, not only is it colder outside, but it's raining, it's foggy, and like I always say, when you're behind the wheel of a car, anything that you add, it creates more liabilities. There's liabilities everywhere, and that increases the risk of car accidents, right? So there's, in Alabama, on average, now imagine a day like today, but on average, there's a car accident reported every 3 minutes.
Wow.
And so when you're in a place like Birmingham, where there's more cars, you add the rain, it creates those liabilities, and there's more chances. And so something we all need to be aware of.
Of course, you can't plan for a car wreck. No one does. They just happen, mostly at the most inconvenient times, right? What should we do immediately after something like that happens?
So that's a good question. And I think a lot of times people say, take pictures, preserve the evidence. Being someone that was in a very, very catastrophic car accident myself, was injured, other people in the car were injured, the first thing you want to do is make sure that you're okay, right? And I don't want to sound like a flight attendant, but there's a reason that they say, you know, put your oxygen mask on before you help somebody else. Make sure that you're okay. Make sure that the other people in the vehicle are okay, because that's what's most important. And once you figure those things out, you want to do exactly what I said at the beginning. You want to preserve that scene, because you'll never get to recreate that accident scene, right? The things that you hear, the way things looked. We all have cell phones now, right? We shouldn't be using them when we're driving, but if we are in an accident, use that cell phone to take pictures. You know, if somebody's making a statement to you, you can preserve that evidence, you know, and your mental thoughts, right? There's a lot that's going through your head, what you're saying to the police, what they're saying to you. And so that's very valuable, because the insurance companies that we're so often dealing with, or these commercial trucking companies, they want that evidence, right, in order to take care of you down the road. And that's ultimately what we want to do. Certainly.
Now, what if you are not at fault? You're driving, you're in a wreck, you're not at fault, but the at-fault driver doesn't have insurance. How do you go from there?
Yeah, so I was actually just in the parking lot talking to someone about this exact issue. So the state of Alabama and almost every state requires every policy of insurance to cover what's called uninsured, underinsured motorist coverage. And what that means is let's say I'm driving down the road, somebody hits me, I've got catastrophic injuries. They didn't carry liability insurance, so they broke the law. There's nothing I could do about that, though, right? Well, my insurance is going to have a policy within the policy that says we're going to cover you if you are hurt by someone who doesn't have insurance. So you always want to check and make sure when you're looking at what the insurance companies call your declaration pages, that you have that uninsured or underinsured motorist coverage to protect you.
Certainly. You've answered some interesting questions and some hairy issues that people just may find themselves involved in. What about commercial vehicles? What can we do in that situation?
Yeah, and I spoke to it a minute ago. So all of the same things apply with a commercial vehicle that I just talked about in terms of what you want to do. But what we have found, and what you'll see, and it makes sense, is that the accidents are worse with commercial vehicles, the injuries are worse, the property damage is worse, and those companies know that, right? And that's why they have the FMCSA, the federal government has an administration in place and regulations in place to dictate how these commercial carriers act. But with that, they have teams that are in place, right? I used to be on those teams, right? And I empathize with some of those companies where they know what to do when an accident happens. And so it's so important when a commercial vehicle accident is involved that you talk to an attorney or that has a team like Hollis Wright in place that knows how to deal with those commercial carriers. Because I promise you, they have teams and attorneys in place for anything that happens.
Certainly. Michael, we appreciate your insight this morning and your information. Thanks for coming on the show.
Yes, ma'am.